What's up everyone, Man Bun Metalhead here. In this video, I'm going to give you a tour of my pedal board. So I've been updating my pedal board over the last 2 or 3 years. So over the last 2 years, I made 2 big updates to this pedal board. And I thought I had this all figured out the first time I did it, but as you use these pedals and you get using them live and your setups and stuff, everything changes. So I want to say I'm probably where I need to be, but in a year, who knows? I might want to switch things up. But let's get into it. For my pedal board, I use a product from Pedal Pad, the Fat 3, which is about 18 inches deep and 28 inches wide. So what's great about this pedal board is you have the bottom, which is the pedal board itself, and the top just removes. So when you get to a gig, you set it down, you remove the top, and then you're good to go. You don't have to take anything out of a box. Now on the front of the pedal board, you have the handle with 2 really heavy duty locks. On the back, you have a couple of breakaway hinges. On the left side, I installed a power connector to power all the pedals, and it came with a mount for a microphone stand, so I don't have to worry about a tripod at a gig. On the left side, I have 4 1/4-inch TRS jacks, so I can easily hook up to my amp input, my FX send and return, as well as any channel switching if I use TRS jacks. Now let's open this baby up. So here we have it. On the top of the pedal board, you can see I have all my pedals laid out. So what's cool on this, you can actually flip up the pedal board and now you have storage underneath. So this is where I have my 2 power supplies. I have a One Spot Pro CS12 power supply, as well as a Strymon Ogia for all my pedals that need a little more power, like my Strymon Timeline and Mobius, the ES8, and the Line 6 G70 wireless. I can also store cables in the pedal board as well. So let's get to the really cool part, the pedals. So at the heart of this is the Boss ES8. I could not do any of what I do, all my switching and stuff, without this. It's an absolutely fantastic unit. Check it out. So my guitar signal comes into my Line 6 G70. So on this, I actually have 2 outputs. One output is going straight into my ES8. The other output is going into my decimator G string. So this is my noise gate that I use. So one reason I usually bypass the decimator is if I'm using my piezo pickup and I am going to send that straight to the PA, so I don't really need a noise gate for that. So way in the back here, I have a Polytune 2 mini tuner. I think this thing works great for tuning. It's always on, so I can tune even when I'm playing. I can kind of take a look at the notes, and that is connected from the tuner output of my ES8, so it's always got signal. So each one of my pedals is connected up to my ES8 in one of the patches. So the first loop is going to have my wah in there, my Crybaby from Hell. So this is what I use for obviously any wah, and I always like to have it as the very first effect. The next, I'm going to use my Tube Screamer MIDI way back here. This is what I use for distortion channels, either rhythm or solo. Just helps tighten up that distortion just a touch. You can see I really don't have it set very high or high at all. In my third loop, I have my Empress Compressor. So I typically only use this on clean channels, like my clean amp channel, or if I'm using the piezo pickup to send to the PA, I might use that. So my loop number 4 is my Fishman Platinum Pro EQ. So I use this only when I use my piezo bridge, and I send this directly to the PA with the XLR output on the back. And this is also nice. It has a compressor built in, as well as a 5-band EQ. It has a tuner as well, which I never use, and it also has a boost. So the Fishman also has an FX send and return. So I use that to send back into the ES8, and then use one of the outputs of the ES8 to send back to the Fishman FX return before I go to the PA. Loop number 5 is my Hall of Fame mini reverb. I actually use that as the very last loop, but as I've built this, I've changed a lot of things, and it just happens to be loop number 5. Loop number 6 is my Flashback mini delay. So I use that mostly as a slapback delay on my solo channels. Loop number 7 is my Strymon Timeline, and I use that pretty much on every patch. It's great because I can change the delay for whatever patch that I'm using. My last loop is the Strymon Mobius. That is a chorus, and again, like the timeline, I can change the chorus for whatever patch I'm using. And I typically use it on clean patches as well as solo patches, and sometimes rhythm distortion. Depends on what I'm playing. So that's a very brief overview of the pedals that I use, but I'll go ahead and show you the typical loops that I use for my day-to-day playing. So my loop number 1 is my solo. So I'm using the volume loop as an effects send and return, but that is actually after the second. So it'll go wah, then Tube Screamer Mini, then the effects loop. The reverb is actually last. We're gonna go 6 and 7, so that is my 2 delays, and those are in parallel. And then 8 is the chorus, and then finally it'll actually go to 5, which is the Hall of Fame reverb. So I'm gonna skip 2 and go to 3, and that is my rhythm distortion patch. So it'll go Tube Screamer, effects loop, the timeline delay, and then the Hall of Fame Mini. 2 is pretty much the same, except it's just got a boost in it, and it also has the wah just in case I want to use that. We'll go over to 4, and that is my piezo setup. So that actually is not going to use the volume loop because it's not going to my amp. It is going to use the Fishman, which will use the loop in the Fishman to then go to my timeline delay, my Mobius chorus, and then to the Hall of Fame reverb, and then back into the Fishman. And then I'll use the XLR out of the Fishman to go to the PA. 5 is my clean channel on my amp with a chorus. So I'll use the Empress Compressor and then go to the effects loop, come back to the timeline, and then to the Mobius, then to the Hall of Fame reverb, and back to the amp. 6 is pretty much the same thing except for a flanger. So I use the same setup, chorus, effects loop, timeline, Mobius, except I use a flanger on the Mobius instead of a chorus, Hall of Fame, and then to the amp. And the last 2 patches I use as special effects. So 7 is typically my distortion channel with a volume swell. And then 8 right now is a long delay that I use for the song Wait by White Lion. So I should also mention that most of my cables on here are D'Addario Planet Waves solderless connector cables. These are really great for making short runs or making perfect length cables. Really quick, easy to do, and doesn't take any soldering, which is awesome. So there you have it, my 2018 Pedalboard Tour. If I do an update on this in the future, I'll make sure to let you guys know about it, but hopefully not, because it is a lot of work. So what do you think about my pedalboard? What pedals would you get rid of? Which ones would you add? Which ones do you absolutely love? Leave a comment below and let's get a discussion going. If you like this video, please give me a like below. And if you want to hear more about what I'm working on, like gear reviews, tips and tricks, techniques, that kind of stuff, feel free to subscribe my channel and hit that little bell icon so you're notified whenever I release a new video. But hey, until next time, rock on.